so delighted to be here. The campaign for grade level reading was launched in 2012. It now represents and provides backbone support to a growing network of stakeholder coalitions in 350 plus communities across 46 states, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, United States Virgin Islands, Alberta, and Saskatchewan in Canada. The campaign's mission is straightforward: disrupt generational poverty and secure more hopeful futures for the children of economically challenged, fragile, and otherwise marginalized families. They work with local communities to remove the early obstacles, that first important rung of success sequence ladder, high school graduation. While the time between the early grades and high school may seem long, we know well that proficient reading and showing up to class regularly by third grade significantly influences a child's likelihood of completing high school. These stakeholder coalitions invest time, talent, and dollars to assure three basic objectives: that more young children show up ready for what good schools can offer, that more families get the help and support they need to promote everyday attendance, and that more communities find ways to help more students avoid the summer slide. And most inspiring, these coalitions work with schools, educators, and parents to move the needle on early literacy and grade level reading. You know, this is hard work. And when progress comes, it is jagged, unstable, slow, and in small increments. Even so, between 2012 and 2019, about 100 communities could report measurable and meaningful progress. But that was BC, before COVID. What progress there has been obliterated by the necessary school closures and resulting loss of in-person instructional time. This was coupled with limited access to remote learning devices. If students cannot connect, they cannot learn. And while there were heroic efforts by teachers, administrators, parents, and students themselves to mitigate the losses, the data is showing significant disruption of the learning process. Like the virus itself, this learning loss hit everyone, but reserved the hardest punches for the most vulnerable. In this case, the children of economically challenged, fragile, and otherwise marginalized families. The data tell us that for these children, McKinsey's prognosis could be prophetic. Without urgent and sustained attention, the hurt could last a lifetime. In addition to addressing the academic needs of the returning students, attention must be given to alleviating attendance hesitancy and putting in place people and programs able to respond to the inevitable emotional and social needs of students traumatized by the pandemic. Accelerating recovery for these children, especially in the early grades, must become an urgent priority for all of us. That is why the campaign for grade level reading is sorting through what works to find those big bet worthy programs and strategies that can deliver more than the usual increments of progress and instead can contribute to transformative change. Today, I am pleased to lift up three such big bet efforts: EdTech, enabled teaching and learning, National Board Certified Teachers, and Learning Happens Everywhere, a growing movement to transform communities into learning-rich environments. I welcome to this conversation Jean-Claude Brizard, CEO of Digital Promise, Peggy Brookins, CEO of the National Board of Professional Teaching Standards, and Jane Park, Director of the Clinton Foundation's Too Small to Fail initiative, a pillar and beacon for learning happens everywhere. And with that, I turn this over now to Jean-Claude.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Digital Promise was created in 2008 by an act of Congress and launched in 2011. Today, we are a global 501c3 focused on improving equity and opportunity for learning through technology and research. We harness the power of networks, stories, research, and powerful learning experiences. We are in 32 states across the US and in 8 to 15 places across the world. In 2020, we faced the largest global education crisis in the last century. Children may not be coming back to school, suboptimal learning environments, mental health challenges, and the potential for real loss in earnings by young people if we don't do what we need to do to fix this problem. More closely to the US, we launched a challenge about 8 months ago, looking at issues that school systems were facing around the country. We found 5 dominant issues: one of student engagement, teaching with technology access, mental health and trauma, and of course, connecting families to student learning. We think parents have had a view in the classroom they're not going to let go of. Number one. Number two, 53% of a child's time is spent at home, making sure that we connect what we do in schools with our families. Holding on to what we experienced in 2020 is a fundamental part of the work that we actually need to get done. So one our big bet is to push to close the digital learning gap. And that includes 3 things: gaps in access, gaps in participation, and gaps in powerful use. And in powerful use, we talk about powerful learning, the issues of personal and accessible ways of teaching and learning, authentic, challenging curricula, collaborative, connected ways of teaching and learning, and making sure that what we're pushing is inquisitive and reflective. We talk about 2 fundamental challenges. One, the fact that we have a disconnected teaching and learning and assessment system, one that is not focused on powerful learning, the whole child, and frankly has a myopic and narrow way of measuring success, and one that does not address the needs of the individual learner. And the second challenge is a persistent and shameful digital gap. By focusing on the individual learner, we talk about learner variability, the fact that no student is really average, that we really have to understand every student's struggles and strengths, and to make sure that we approach children through the science of learning and the science of development. So to make sure that we have and address the challenges I've mentioned, the big bet, frankly, the work that we need to do is to make sure we close the digital learning gap, gaps in access, participation, and powerful use. We cannot just drop the box of technology and walking away from schools, but the work that we need to do includes a real meaningful integration of technology into the classroom, into pedagogical practices, into curriculum. So again, the 3 things that we know is a part of closing the digital learning gap is access to technology and broadband, real meaningful participation, and powerful use. In March 2020, we had 60 million K-12 students who didn't have access to working devices, high-speed internet, or both. We're now at the gap at 12 million, and we know we have a long, long way to go. And the fact is that most students who are experiencing this issue are kids who live in rural areas or live in poverty. One of the exemplars of work that we've seen done with Digital Promise and Verizon includes working with schools across the US, giving them access to broadband and technology, and providing real meaningful coaching and support at the school level to support young people. The results speak for themselves. Teachers, students, families give it a high approval rating. And we know that 93% of all these schools seamlessly pivoted to distance learning. So the big bet again is to make sure that we close the digital learning gap. And to do that, we have to provide the kinds of meaningful access to technology, meaningful integration of those kinds of tools into the work we do every single day. Thank you. And now I turn it over to my colleague, Peggy Bookings.
Thanks, Jean-Claude. I am so glad to be a part of this conversation today and share our big bet. When I think about the most important investment and intervention for teaching and learning, I think of one thing: teachers. Teachers are the most impactful in-school factor on student learning. A professional workforce of accomplished, diverse teachers is instrumental in reversing learning loss, accelerating student learning, and closing an enduring and equitable achievement and opportunity gap that we have seen exacerbated by this pandemic. At the National Board, our work focuses on ensuring that every student has the opportunity to be taught by a highly accomplished teacher every day. The National Board sets the standards for what accomplished teachers should know and be able to do. And through National Board certification, teachers demonstrate their ability to teach to those high standards. Today, there are more than 128,000 National Board certified teachers teaching millions of students each year. We believe there is no better bet to ensure equitable, excellent, and accelerated student learning than growing the number and diversity among National Board Certified teachers across the country. Decades of research have shown a positive impact National Board Certification has on teacher performance, teacher retention, and student learning. NBCTs have deep knowledge of student and subject matter and utilize that expertise to support individual students' learning, including social emotional learning. They routinely reflect on their teaching to make sure they are meeting students' needs and constantly improving their practice. They develop and reinforce their leadership skills, and research shows they stay in the classroom longer, leading to more experienced teachers and a more stable workforce. Students of NBCTs gain an additional 6 to 8 weeks of learning and demonstrate deeper learning. We want to bring that high quality accomplished teaching to every classroom in America, and we have some strong momentum already. But it requires the policy support and investment of state and district leaders. Currently, more than half of the states across the country offer board certified teachers a financial incentive for achieving the highest level of professional standards. We have seen the amazing impact that growing the number of NBCTs can have on improving that student learning. In 2016, following another year below the national average scores on NAEP, Mississippi made a significant investment to increase the number of NBCTs in the state. By 2019, they ranked #1 in the nation for gains on NAEP. This was the largest score gain over a 2-year period in 4th grade reading and mathematics, and they showed a significant growth and continued attainment in 8th grade math and reading. In 2017, the Mississippi study found that kindergarten students taught by NBCTs were 31% more likely to achieve a proficient score in the kindergarten readiness assessment and 19% more likely to achieve growth in their literacy assessment performance. In a short time, Mississippi's concentrated focus on improving student learning, in part by growing the number of NBCTs, vaulted student learning across the state. The impact of the pandemic has been detrimental to teachers and students, and pre-existing challenges have only made it worse. The profession, already suffering shortages and instability, has lost more teachers. School closures left many of our most vulnerable students without resources and opportunities needed to continue learning. Providing teachers with professional support and making sure all students have access to the NBCTs can mitigate the harmful consequences of the pandemic. Every National Board Certified teacher can serve as a lighthouse, helping to lead students and communities to a brighter, more successful future. If we can scale National Board Certification, we can shine that light over all children, their classrooms, their families, and communities. We will see a profound positive outcome for generations to come. As policymakers and education leaders face the road to building our post-pandemic education systems, investing in National Board Certification can drive immediate change and build a more equitable foundation for a stronger tomorrow. A bet on National Board Certification is a win for students, communities, and our collective future. I want to thank the Campaign for Grade Level Reading for having me today. And now I'd like to introduce Jane Park.
Thank you, Peggy. At Too Small to Fail, we envision a world where all families have access to high quality early learning resources. We envision a world where every community is filled with spaces for young children to thrive, and where every parent is engaging in language-rich interactions with their children from birth. Our aim has really been to surround families with language and learning opportunities, not just in schools and libraries, but everywhere in all the spaces where they're visiting throughout their neighborhoods. For families, our approach is to, just make those small moments big, whether it's waiting for the bus or waiting for laundry to get done, really helping to fill those daily moments with language-rich activities like talking, reading, and singing. We know that children really learn vocabulary best through those gradual, recurrent exposures to new words in multiple contexts over time. So it really makes sense to turn these everyday spaces into learning-rich environments to provide those daily real-time exposures to opportunities for learning, as well as for social emotional development. For communities, we've been working with leaders on the ground to help create spaces where these moments can happen more often. Our big bet is to meet families where they are in everyday spaces where they visit with their children. So whether it's the local hospital waiting area, the grocery store, the neighborhood playground, the laundromat, the diaper bank, or even the family court, we're creating welcoming environments where families can gather, learn, play, and support each other. We do this through signage on the walls with fun and engaging parent-child conversation prompts about books and feelings and sunshine, playgrounds filled with messages to help parents turn playtime into fun opportunities to talk, read, and sing together, while they can access books through these little mini libraries or help bring stories to life through story trails as they walk along a path outdoors. Diaper changing stations can also be a learning moment. These are changing stations enhanced with messages encouraging parents to sing together during diaper time. Grocery stores that turn a routine shopping trip into a fun learning adventure and scavenger hunt for families as they talk about the fruits and vegetables they see or count the apples they put into the cart. We know that environment truly does matter and can shape behavior. Through our work with the Coin Laundry Association and the Laundry Cares Foundation, we've been proud to distribute early literacy resources through 5,000 laundromats across the country. And we've also transformed 100 laundromats nationally into playful literacy-rich environments. Why laundromats? We know that laundromats are spaces where families typically spend about 2.5 hours each week. And so this is quite a bit of time over weeks and months. And we've been working to turn these daily moments into rich opportunities for learning. We've also been forging collaborations with teachers, educators, and families and other trusted voices to bring programming into these environments. We know how important modeling is. So when teachers or educators or librarians model what it looks like to read a book with an infant, we know that just through our research, parents benefit tremendously. This work has evolved into transformations of other spaces. We've been thrilled to partner with the National Council for Juvenile and Family Court Judges to transform family court waiting areas, which we can all imagine could be a very stressful, traumatic place for children. So we've been transforming these waiting areas into playful literacy-rich environments. Other spaces where we've worked to highlight that learning can happen everywhere includes shopping centers like Westfield malls with digital ads, inside subways and on highway billboards, as well as public housing where families can walk through an outdoor environment and talk about shapes and colors and letters and play I Spy together. And in many of these spaces, we distribute tools and resources that caregivers can use. And we've been working to increase families' access to high quality resources like books and parent toolkits and music playlists to engage in literacy-rich interactions together at home and throughout the neighborhood. As we look ahead, we're very excited to engage in these types of transformative partnerships to reach families in places and spaces they visit on a regular basis. So whether it's restaurants or convenience stores, fueling stations, if we think about all these spaces where families are spending time, how can we maximize that time for families to turn those daily moments and trips to the grocery store or the fueling station into opportunities for learning? So we really encourage you to dream big with us, to take on this big bet with us, to really reimagine what neighborhoods could look like in ways that truly help children and families thrive. We're also eager to continue to build our partnerships with teachers, parents, caregivers, and other trusted voices to help create more of these environments and help spread the message far and wide that learning can happen everywhere. For more information about our resources, please visit talkingisteaching.org/communities. And I just thank you so much again. And big thanks to the Campaign for Grade Level Reading for this opportunity to share our big bet. Now I'll turn it back over to Yoli.
Jane, Jean-Claude, Peggy, thank you all. We appreciate your willingness to be available for follow-up questions and conversation. The Campaign for Grade Level Reading looks forward to working with you, their community coalitions, and with others in this EdWeek audience to ensure that these big bets leapfrog into big results. It's been great being with you today.